BBC Radio Northampton.
OK, 5:10, it's Drive with Joe, Tuesday. Hope you're doing OK. When it comes to finding work, school leavers are facing increasingly hard times. We know that. We hear it all the time, don't we? But Corby has seen the biggest increase in youth unemployment in the country. That's the view of Ambitious Minds, an educational business which analysed the national statistics. It says Corby has seen its youth unemployment rate rise at 3 times the average, from 4% to 11% since September 2007. In a moment, we'll hear from the Chief Executive of Ambitious Minds, but first our Corby reporter Martin Borley is speaking to jobless youngsters in the town.
What's it like to be young and unemployed here in Corby? I've been speaking to 3 out-of-work young people with very different experiences. 17-year-old James has been out of work for just over a year. He says he's prepared to take on almost anything.
Anything retail or kitchen jobs, anything like that, in a restaurant, anything really, anything.
And how have you tried to find work?
Websites, job centre, like things in newspapers, friends that work, that sort of stuff. But like, you never get anything back.
So what's it like to be constantly looking for work and not finding anything?
Annoying and stressing at the same time. I mean, like, my mum's just recently out of work as well and kind of struggling in the household and stuff, but got to keep trying really, ain't you?
Do you think anyone could do more to help people like you?
I think they should provide another system for youth, like just out of school or college or stuff like that, but some agencies don't let you until you're 18, and it's kind of hurtful on people 16, 17 age range.
You're 17.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a job?
I've had one job, yeah, when I was 16, but I got laid off after about 4 months.
It must be a bit demoralising.
It is, very, very. But at the end of the day, you just got to get out there and keep trying, really, instead of just sitting around doing nothing.
That's 17-year-old James, who's only had one brief spell of employment since leaving school at 16. Daniel decided to take his A-levels and then go to university. He's now 21 with a degree in history. He's been out of work for a couple of months.
They all want experience, and if you haven't got experience, then you're pretty much in trouble, and they won't hire a lot of people. So without experience, you're pretty much screwed.
So you've gone on to university. You've presumably got a degree.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps or will help you?
Not really, because loads of people have got a degree, and they want high degrees. So if you don't finish in first class, then you're pretty much not going to get a degree job.
You don't regret taking it, though, do you?
Oh, no. Definitely, best 3 years of my life.
What do you think needs to be done, or if anything can be done, to help people like you and other young people who are struggling to find work?
Just maybe more work experience-wise, like trying to get people to get into internships or just work experience for a few months, and then helping fund for the cost of travelling and stuff like that. Because you can't do it without the costs, and if you're doing work experience, you're not getting paid for it.
That's Daniel's story. Demi is 17 and hasn't worked since leaving school more than a year ago. What have you been doing to try and find work?
Nothing really.
Going to the job centre?
Yeah, I've went to the job centre a few times.
So what's it like to have been unemployed for a year now and you're just 17?
Just sitting in the house doing nothing.
Must get a bit boring.
Yeah, very boring.
Do you have to sometimes push yourself to go out?
No. I've always got something to do.
Yeah. So
I do need a job, so...
You need that money?
Yeah. Just so I can go out on the weekends and do more stuff, like...
Is there more, do you think, that you could do to find work?
Yeah.
Such as?
Go look for jobs more and stuff like that.
So what stopped you doing that?
I just get sidetracked, just get bored and just don't do it.
You almost need someone to push you out, do you,
Yeah.
and force you to do it?
Yeah.
So who's going to do that?
Me, obviously.
I mean, you're on benefits at the moment, presumably.
No.
No, you don't get anything?
No, my mum pays for everything for me.
Do you think your mum should be pushing you out?
Yeah, she does.
So 3 different young people in Corby, all of them jobless, and all with very different experiences.
Our Corby reporter Martin Borley there will talk more about these figures that show Corby has had the highest rise in youth unemployment in the country over the last 12 months. They're just gone 5:15 then. Tuesday with Joe at drive time. So Corby tops the league table for places with the biggest increase in youth unemployment in the country. The survey was done by Ambitious Minds, an educational business. Sean McGuire is chief exec of Ambitious Minds. He's with me now. Why is Corby the worst performing area of the country then, Sean?
I think that the reasons for that are probably complex and local, to do with the local economy in Corby and the changes that it's experienced. But I think that the real point to pick up on this is that Corby's going to have to grapple with what could become a sort of normalised level of unusually high youth unemployment, and that's really the point that we want to get over to people, that something desperately needs to be done about that, because it will be accepted as the ordinary course of events otherwise. That's what happens, is it just becomes normal that the adults and youngsters in Corby think, well, I'm not going to get a job, so we'll just hang around all day. Yeah, and what happens with that? In a way, it's the same narrative as the idea of the North-South divide that people accept as being normal. That in the north of England, I know you're not in the north, but this other, national conversation is about the North-South divide, and that there's a higher rate of permanent unemployment in certain northern cities. I'm speaking from Liverpool. That's a good example. And after a while, I think they cease to ask why and just accept it as a normal state of affairs. All unemployment is bad, obviously, but do you think youth unemployment has particular consequences? I think it has potentially very damaging consequences for all of us, because if we've got a generation of young adults who are growing up and getting the generation that's getting the GCSE results on Thursday, and they enter a much more difficult jobs market than the one that existed when they went to secondary school, and they simply can't get jobs and build independent adult lives, then the consequences for all of us are extraordinarily bad. And the young woman that you interviewed a few minutes ago, who was just stuck at home in a bit of a rut, mum's paying for everything, doesn't really feel motivated to do much, is not an untypical example of that sort of state of mind they get into, and that's very bad for all of us. Yeah, that normalisation that you're talking about, does that last throughout someone's life then? If they spend their their formative years unable to get work, are they more likely to spend their whole life unemployed? I think there's a lot of evidence that suggests that's the case, because it becomes an alternative kind of way of life. And if you don't have all the benefits that come from work, I know a lot of people talk about the discipline that work gives people, and it's a structured life. But actually, that young girl said one very interesting thing, I thought, which was that the reason she wants to get a job wasn't to build a career. It was she wants to have money to go out at the weekend. And one of the things that we try to do is to harness the aspirations that young adults have, in whatever way they are, to give them the motivation to achieve what we want them to do, which is to build an independent adult life and a career. The thing is, aspirations are all well and good, but the jobs aren't there, are they? Young people can aspire to what they want, but when they go down the job centre, they're told there's nothing for them. That's the problem that is very difficult to solve, and what we think they need to have is a set of skills which will assist them to build an independent adult life, which gives them a recognition of what those problems are. So instead of being confused and bewildered by the fact they can't get a job, they do things to improve their own chances, motivated by their own need to build a better life, rather than being told what to do by someone else. That's part of the problem. We heard from a 21-year-old there who's come back to Corby after going away and getting a degree, still can't find a job. Yeah, well, that's one of the other problems, Joe, that there is going to be a concomitant rise that's reaching dangerous and potentially normalised levels of unemployment amongst graduates. And interestingly enough, when you asked that young man whether did he regret doing his degree, his answer, I think, was the best 3 years of my life. That might not be an answer that the people who are funding the next generation of young adults to go to higher education would regard as a very good answer, because they'd say, unless you can come out college with a degree that helps you to get a job, what's the point of going? Who can change this then? You say the youngsters need skills to make sure that they understand why they're not getting jobs, and understand that hopefully it's a relatively short blip in the country's history, but who can change what's happening in Corby? I think that the only way you can change what's happening in Corby and in other parts of the UK where youth unemployment's risen dramatically since 2007, really since the financial crisis started, is to equip them with a set of skills which is probably outside the current school curriculum, which gives them a portable ability to build their own lives because they understand what's going on. What we are talking about are essential life skills that are rooted in financial comprehension. If you get those two things right, you've got a much better chance of building an independent adult life, and that's what we want young adults to do. We don't want them to be dependent on the state. We don't want them, as that young girl's parents, I think, will agree with me, still living at home doing nothing when she's 24. That'll be a social catastrophe for all of us, and it's got much bigger consequences, I think, than people are seeing at the moment, because it's a relatively new problem. When the kids who get their GCSE results on Thursday went to school in 2007, to secondary school, the world was an entirely different place. These are a new set of problems that we've got to find a solution to.
It's interesting talking to you. Thank you, Sean McGuire, the Chief Executive of Ambitious Minds. According to a survey by that organisation released today, Corby is in first place for the biggest increase in youth unemployment in the UK. If you want to know where your part of Northamptonshire falls in the ranking, Kettering is in 24th place, Wellingborough 79th, Northampton 136th, Daventry 179th, East Northants 191st, so the problems in Corby far worse than the rest of the county. South Northants 274th, the area in the county with the lowest increase in youth unemployment and amongst the lowest in the country.
Northants Travel. Every 15 minutes. BBC Radio Northampton.
5:20 then, here's Paul.